Good day, beautiful people. I am 6 weeks postpartum as of yesterday. So I am going to go through my birth experience and some of the things I've experienced thus far. I am going to be reading from my notes because it's a lot to say, so forgive me if I am not looking directly at the camera. I arrived at the hospital at 5 a.m. I was induced the day before my due date. I think it was a scheduling thing. I kind of wish I had waited to be induced on my actual due date because it was my father's birthday. But it is what it is, and I just went ahead and got induced on the day before. One of the reasons that I was induced initially is because I was thought to have had gestational diabetes, and the baby was already 8 pounds and they didn't want him to get any bigger. So they checked my cervix when I arrived, like I said, at 5 a.m. They checked my glucose, my blood type. I was given Cytotec vaginally and orally around 6:30 a.m. and there was still no dilation, so around 10:30 a.m. I was given it again. I couldn't have anything too heavy or fatty for breakfast, so I had 2 pancakes and sugar-free syrup. I had salmon for lunch, and the contractions in the baby were pretty steady throughout that day and that time. I had some fentanyl. My blood pressure dropped. I felt nausea side effects. I urgently felt the need to vomit, but nothing came up, and that was because they didn't allow me to eat anything crazy. I got an epidural after the fentanyl, and it didn't do as much as I liked. So since the baby was bigger, I felt a little bit more with this child than I did with the other two. My first son was 6 pounds and 13 ounces, and my next one, of course, was much smaller. He was about 4 pounds, and this one was 8 pounds, over 8 pounds actually. So like I said, the gestational diabetes was probably the reason why he was a little bigger. But then again, his dad's a big guy. He's 270, 275, and he stands 6 feet 3 inches tall. So, could have been either or both, a combination of those things. Now, after 3 good pushes, really, he was out. I did have an epidural, and both of our glucose levels were pretty stable after the delivery. I was very hungry and very thirsty after I gave birth to him. And I did notice that I did have some tingling in my right big toe even 2 weeks after the epidural. Eventually I'm going to see if there's anything I can do about it because it's constant. It's not something that comes and goes. It's actually constant, and that's going to be an issue for me because it is a bit uncomfortable. So as far as the baby goes, he was born at 8 pounds 6 ounces, 21 inches long and healthy. They took his blood and they sent it off to the state. They tested for cystic fibrosis, PKU, and some other disorders. At my 2-week appointment, the doctor mentioned that the baby had a nuchal cord, which means that the umbilical cord was wrapped around him. And I was not aware of this. It was probably because I didn't remember some of the things in the events because of the fentanyl and whatnot that was going on. But I remember being very cold, as I mentioned this in another video, that I am anemic. So in the last child that I have, I remember when I was having him, I was very cold. So I took my own things this time, my own blanket, and to make sure I stayed warm, but that wasn't enough. It was an internal issue I was having. My blood pressure dropped, and I'm already anemic, so those things, 2 things together, had a lot to do with that. My husband said that my eyes were rolling, and I had them kind of nervous for a while. So my husband and my mother-in-law actually got sick after we left the hospital. I do not know what it was, some type of stomach bug, virus, flu, or whatever the case may be. And then I eventually got sick, but thank goodness the baby did not feel any effects of that. Other things about the baby is that he also lost some weight, when he went to his follow-up appointment. And they said that was normal. Babies lose about 1 pound or so after, within the first week or 2, and then they gain it right back, and they were right. about that. As far as his poops were concerned, like very early on when I would breastfeed him, I noticed that he would poop almost immediately, once he started to breastfeed at a normal basis, and the doctor said that that was normal. Also, his poops were like liquidy mustard color, and that's just something that comes with the territory, and that's what they look like when a baby is breastfed. His circumcision went extremely smooth. As far as circumcisions go, they have the Gomco, the Plastabel, and the Mogen clamp methods, and we did the Gomco. It was a pretty smooth procedure. After 3 days, the soreness went away, and by week 1 or a week after he had the procedure, everything was pretty much completely healed. We just kept Vaseline on it. We kept the area clean. We would put Vaseline on him, on the area, and on the diaper to prevent sticking. So it took about 15 minutes, the whole procedure. I stayed in the room while they gave him anesthesia. My husband didn't want to stay in there for that, but I held him for about 10 minutes to let the anesthesia take effect. And, for the actual procedure, though, we both left the room. I did not want to see him go through that. Even though I'm usually pretty good at dealing with things like that, and I hate the fact that I left them, but I just didn't want to deal with that. So for gas, I've been using gripe water from time to time. I don't use it often and haven't been using it very often because I don't want him to get used to sweet things, but I can say I probably have used it a good 4 times, and he's 6 weeks old now. So if you don't know what gripe water is, you can go and look it up. It's supposed to help with gas and constipation and things like that in babies. Around 2 weeks old, his skin started to peel, and I guess that's normal after being born, after being in the womb. When you come out and you're dry all the time, I did notice that, and so I just kept him nice and moisturized. And around 4 weeks old, we noticed that he had a very bad reaction. I had no idea what it was. I didn't like it. It was not very appealing, and it made me pretty nervous. And so when I took him to the doctor, she said, "Oh, well, it just looks like he has some type of allergic reaction, sebaceous condition or something like that." And she just said, "Well, just get some hydrocortisone cream and apply it." And that actually did work. After a few days, his face just cleared up greatly, and I was extremely happy about that. Now, as far as I am concerned, I went over baby stuff. Now, as far as me, my hemorrhoids did flare up, of course. I had a slight tear when I gave birth, but thank goodness I didn't have to get any stitches, and there was still a little bleeding, up to about 5 weeks or so because of that tear. But I had mild abdominal cramping sometimes when I would breastfeed, and that's because your uterus is kind of contracting, and breastfeeding actually does that, and that has a lot to do with why you're able to lose weight so fast also after you give birth and you are a breastfeeding mom, because that breastfeeding is allowing things to contract back down and it's pulling all of that out of your body. All right, so I took some Midol, and I also drank some raspberry tea, and that helped pretty good as well. While breastfeeding, I'm constantly hungry and thirsty. I eat a lot, and that's normal because as a breastfeeding mom, you're going to need about 500 extra calories than what you usually eat, because you do have that energy, those nutrients leaving your body going to your baby. So I am supplementing my breast milk with formula because I don't produce enough, and I have a big boy now. He's over 12 pounds now, and he's 6 weeks old, so you can imagine. But as far as the milk we're using Kinder Milk goat milk. I did not want to put him on cow milk or any cow-based formula, so I went with goat milk. It's about $45 per container, and locally Target is the only place I've been able to find it. So it's a bit expensive, but it's worth it because I don't want him on cow milk, because I don't drink cow milk. And at my 6-week appointment, I did a 2-hour glucose test. Fasting, it was 82, and at the 2-hour mark, it was 92. So both of them were within range, and I was extremely excited about that. Also, as far as my weight is concerned, When I gave birth to him, I was 189 pounds, and at my 6-week checkup, I was 172 pounds. So I went down 17 pounds, and that's great. I'm constantly and continuously going to work on that, especially getting my midsection. I'd like my breasts to go down, but that's probably not going to happen because I'm breastfeeding, so I'm engorged and all that good stuff. But I just want to look proportional. So I'm just going to be working on getting my diet back, drinking my water like I should, and just doing the things that I can so I can maintain being healthy while I'm breastfeeding him. All right. So at my 6-week checkup, also, I was cleared to have intercourse. I ain't gonna talk about that because I was already, but anyway, we're gonna leave that alone. As far as birth control is concerned, I don't want anything hormonal, and the IUD my husband doesn't like. Something that I am thinking about strongly is, as far as birth control is concerned, is the Flexi Gel. And it's something that you can apply up to 1 hour before intercourse, and it's hormone free. It comes in packages of 12 per pack. I haven't gotten it yet, but we're going to see how this goes. Seems like it's pretty straightforward and easy to apply and deal with, but it's just something you have to do every day, and I wish it wasn't something I had to do every day. That's why I like the IUD, but I'm trying to come to a compromise here to make everybody comfortable, because I don't want to do pills or anything that's hormonal, because I don't want my health or my weight or anything else to get out of whack and out of balance or affect the child in any way. So I try to stay as hormone free as I possibly can. All right. Also, I have noticed that my right toe is still tingling, like I told you that I noticed before after my epidural. Now, the doctors have been telling me, okay, we'll give it 6 weeks and see what happens, see if it goes away. It has not gone away. So when I went to my 6-week checkup, they told me, oh, we'll give it 3 months and see if it resolves. So I feel like they're kind of moving the goalposts a little bit, and I don't like it. And it makes me feel a little bit like, I don't know, but I will see what my options are and what avenue I should take concerning that. If you all have had any issues after having an epidural, let me know, because I know there's a risk. Of course, there's a risk in anything any procedures you do to your body, but this is just something that is a little uncomfortable. My equilibrium, I have noticed, has been a little bit off because I've been trying to overcompensate for the tingling to my other leg and foot to keep myself on balance. But yeah, those are just some of the things that I experienced during this birth and after my delivery up to this point, up to 6 weeks. The baby's healthy. He's growing so big and strong, and I'm happy about that. Everything's been going pretty smooth thus far. So his next appointment is about 3 or 4 weeks out, and I really don't have any follow-up appointments. They just wanted to check my sugar, and they did that, and it was within a very good range. But yeah, that's my birth experience, you guys. And other than being very cold after giving birth, and the hemorrhoids and him getting circumcised, those were the major events for me that caused some concern. And we got over those, and right now I feel we're on a good home stretch. So I want to thank you all for watching, and you be blessed.